The battle we're fighting is the hardest ever in human history. And because of that, it has the greatest reward of any reward God has ever given any generation. A bonus 1,000-year age that people call the millennial reign with Jesus Christ on earth. And I want to discuss that with you so that you know exactly, as we go through the tribulations that we're forced to go through in this time, so that you know where we're going from here, and so that you have the faith to face the beast in the way that we have to face him in the end of the age right now. And in Revelation chapter 20, starting in verse 4, it says, "And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was committed to them. Then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness to Jesus and for the word of God, who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead did not live again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he who has part in the first resurrection. Over such, the second death, which happens 1,000 years later, has no power. But they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him for 1,000 years. This generation only, who was beheaded by the beast by the end of the 5th seal of Revelation chapter 6. And what is the millennial reign going to look like? Are we going to be like spirits floating around, playing harps and things like that? Nope. The entire earth and us will be resurrected for the millennial reign into what God had originally created. And God created man out of the dust of the earth, the sand of the earth, not the dirt, out of the dust. The sand is how the Hebrew is translated. And dust, sand, is made of pure silica, one of the strongest compounds on earth. It's what makes glass, for example. And this will allow us to live 1,000 years. 1,000 years. As man was originally created to live. If you look back in the Old Testament, you'll see that people lived nearly 1,000 years. Methuselah lived, I believe, 969 years. He was the oldest to ever live. Noah lived around 950, 960. I don't remember the exact number, but that back in those generations, living near 1,000 years was not unordinary, because we were still living in the silica-based bodies that God had created for us. And through the generations, Satan, Lucifer, has degraded humanity into this carbon-based form that we're in now through genetic modification, which he continues to do to this day. With things like this, with things like the thing that everybody took, that thought they were complying with their government. And in August of 2023 is about to start happening again. New variants, they tell us. Genetic modification is all it is. And about a year ago, God gave me a real clear vision of what the millennial reign will look like. First of all, we will be much, much larger than we are now in our silica forms after the first resurrection. Much, much larger. And everything around us, you look at all of the old mesas in this world, for example. People call them mesas. Those are ancient giant tree stumps. Those were the trees that the Bible speaks of that reached to the heavens, to the firmament, above the earth. And petrified wood is not petrified wood. It is the original silica-based trees that God created. And all that is coming back, including the tree of life, for the millennial reign. And he showed me what it's going to look like. And everything that we see, all the green and all the flowers and all the beauty of this world that we see now, will be rebuilt into the silica-based form, where the leaves will be like glass. The grass will be like glass, and it won't hurt us because we'll also be made of silica. And everything will ring and chime and sound amazing and sing songs to God in that millennium. And we'll get to be with the people that we went through this with at the end of this age. And we get this 1,000-year bonus because what we have to face is so hard. And without knowing our bonus, without knowing the age in which we get to live and learn and reign with Christ for 1,000 years, man, we won't make it through what we have to make it through in the next 2 years. In the cycle of God's judgment, we won't make it through. We will lose faith. We have to know what we are battling for. The truth of heaven. And heaven will come to earth for those 1,000 years, for those of us in this generation who are beheaded and who face this. But after that is the New Jerusalem, 1,000 years from now, when all of the rest of the dead are resurrected and judged according to their works. And the New Jerusalem, when we go into that, those of us in this generation who face the beast and beat it, will be, as it just said, as I just read to you, will be kings and priests. We will be the ones in the New Jerusalem teaching those who have just been resurrected and judged and who were in the book of life and who get to enter into the 1,500-mile cube for all of human history who have served God. We'll get to teach them everything we've learned from Christ over the course of that 1,000 years that we get with him. That's what it means by being kings and priests. And it says in Revelation 20, chapter 7, now when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison. So for those 1,000 years, Satan is bound. No tempter is on earth. It's just us and Jesus. And will go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. This is the beginning of the second resurrection, where those who killed us 1,000 years prior are resurrected, and they're coming back to us for a vengeance to try to get us. And their number is as the sand of the sea. And they went up to the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. So those of us who have lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years, we know this is coming. For 1,000 years, we know this is coming. And we're all gathered together in the holy city, praying, worshiping the Father. And this is the only time where he destroys it all for us. We don't have to do anything but pray. Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. And they went up to the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. This is the end of it all. This is the end. 1,000 years from now, the devil who deceived them was cast in the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Then I saw a great white throne, and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was no place found for them. This is the face of the Father. The first time the face of the Father shows up, and everything melts away. His millennial reign, earth melts away, the heavens melt away. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and books were opened. A lot of books of judgment for all of the dead from all of human history. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works, by the things which were written in the books. The sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to their works. Faith, as I always say, is the very first step. You will be judged at the end of it all according to what you did. And your works will be, God will have one question for you. What did you do to build my kingdom while you were on earth? Then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. That's what people like to call hell. It's the second death. It's the final death. And anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So there's thousands and thousands of books of God's judgment. There's one book, the Lamb's Book of Life, which we in this generation are already in, as I've discussed. Because our judgment is right now facing the beast and facing a beheading for our witness to Jesus throughout the worst time in human history. This is our judgment. We skip this judgment. This judgment is for all of the rest of the dead through all of human history who did not have to face the end of this age and face the beast. Chapter 21, now I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no more sea. Then I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared for a bride, as a bride adorned for her husband. And this is our eternal home. This is the next age after the millennial reign. A 1,500-mile cube. As you read all, and I'm not going to read it all for you today, but read all of Revelation chapter 21, and it describes exactly what that eternal home looks like and how we will be kings and priests within it. This is heaven. This is what heaven actually is. People have this misconception of heaven. You know, the scripture says when you die, you sleep. You sleep. And then at the resurrection time, whether it's us right now who are beheaded in this age and then resurrected in the first resurrection, or anybody else in human history who has died at any time, you die, you sleep, and then boop, you're awoken. You're risen from the dead. You're risen from the dead. In a twinkling of an eye, you die, you rise. Whether it's now, in 2 years, by 2025, after all of the beheadings are complete, as detailed in Revelation chapter 6 in the fifth seal, or if you died in the year 1000, for example. Time is irrelevant. When you sleep, time is irrelevant. Now you dream, and your spiritual state, your spirit, I believe, is what dream is. When people have these near-death experiences, and they talk about going toward a light and all of that, that's your spirit, and it's like a dream state. We'll be in a dream state. If you were to die today, you'll be in like a dream state until resurrection. But still, time is irrelevant. You fall asleep, you wake up in the resurrection, the first or the second, depending on when you die. And it's really that simple. We have to stay laser focused in this age, you and I. We have to stay laser focused, understanding what exactly it is we face and why, and what we're doing, because the beast's deception is going to be so good it could deceive me. I'm telling you. He's going to make his deception sound like heaven on earth. A complete utopia. I remember when I was in grade school, and they used to talk about communism, and they always used to say, well, communism actually is a good thing if it was ever done the right way, where everybody had equal means, everybody had equal opportunity. That's how it's going to be sold to us. Communism done the right way. But it will be the communism of the beast and the communism of Satan himself, with the greatest, grandest deception ever perpetrated on humankind. And if you want to make the millennial reign with Christ, you need to stay steadfast in the Word. Steadfast in the revelation of Jesus Christ, which is the playbook for the end of the age right now. And understand where we're going and understand what exactly we need to do up until that guillotine is dropping on our necks, and knowing the reward we get, boom, in an instant upon the first resurrection.
We were born surrounded by corrupted, wicked images that force us in the box, in the mental imprisonment. Enlightened in our minds, now we know what the mission is. We aim to raise our arrows and our children into righteousness. We walking in the light, shining bright, clear sight. Discern not to turn left when you need to veer right. You gotta fight for your life, cause your life is all you got. You lose your life to find your light, the only way to stay